You probably thought it would never happen, that the silence surrounding your love life meant something was wrong with you, that you were unlovable, unworthy, or destined to walk alone. But little did you know, two hearts have been quietly burning for you, watching, waiting, praying. Now, they're ready to step forward, ready to propose. But just when you think this is a happy ending you've been waiting for, life throws in a twist so profound, so divinely orchestrated, that your soul will feel the thunder of heaven in its core. Because God is not just giving you a choice. He's giving you a revelation. It started on a rainy Wednesday evening. You were sitting in your room, staring out the window as the raindrops slid down the glass like tears. Life had been quiet lately. Not peaceful quiet, but that eerie kind of silence that makes you question if something's coming or if something already passed you by. You had been patient. You had loved with sincerity. You had healed, prayed, and waited, and still nothing. Until tonight. Your phone buzzed. The first message read, "I know this might be sudden, but I've been holding this in for a long time. Can we meet tomorrow? There's something I need to ask you. It's about us." The second message came moments later, from someone else. "You've always been special to me. I've tried to stay silent, but God keeps pushing me to speak. Please, can we talk? I want to be honest before it's too late." Your heart stopped. Two people, two confessions, two proposals about to unfold. One from someone familiar, someone whose presence always brought a calm warmth to your soul. The other a surprise, someone you thought had moved on, someone you never expect to see again in that way. You stared at the screen, and your hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of divine timing. What was happening? You whispered a prayer under your breath, not for an answer, but for clarity. "God, what'd I do?" The next day arrived like thunder behind quiet clouds. The first meeting was in a quaint little cafe. Dim lighting, the smell of cinnamon in the air, and the sound of soft jazz in the background. He was already seated when you arrived, nervously tapping his fingers against the table. As you approached, he stood up, eyes filled with emotion and words ready to be released. "I've prayed about this," he said softly. "I've dreamed of this moment, and I know now. It's you. It's always been you. Will you marry me?" Your breath caught in your throat, not because you didn't expect it, but because he meant it. There was love in his eyes, yes, but also fear, like he was racing against something unseen. You didn't answer. Not yet, because there was still the second meeting. That evening, the setting was completely different. An old church you used to visit years ago, now almost abandoned, its air heavy with silence and the scent of aged wood. He stood there by the altar, as if waiting for God himself to witness the moment. "I never stopped loving you," he whispered when he saw you. "Even when I let go, I never moved on. I know you don't expect this, and maybe I'm too late, but will you give me another chance? I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that your love wasn't in vain." Two proposals, two promises, but then the twist. That night, you couldn't sleep. The silence returned, but now it felt different. Not empty, but watchful, like heaven itself was waiting. You sat on your bed, heart pounding, mind racing, trying to figure out which door to walk through. But then a voice whispered in your spirit, "You are not getting a proposal. You are getting a calling." You froze. "What?" Again, the voice came, deeper this time, like it came from within and beyond you at once. "They are not just choosing you. I am choosing you for something bigger than romance, for a life that will touch souls, not just hearts, for a journey that begins not with a ring, but with revelation." The air in your room grew thick, not with fear, but with presence. You weren't crazy. You weren't alone. God was speaking. And this wasn't about choosing between two people. This was about choosing purpose. Memories rushed in, times when you wanted love so badly you cried into pillows soaked with prayers. Nights when loneliness felt like it would consume you whole. Days when you gave and gave, only to be left behind. But suddenly it all made sense. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Prepared for a love that wasn't just about romance, but about divine alignment. Both men were good. Both carried sincerity. But only one would understand the magnitude of your calling. Only one would walk with you, not in front of you, not behind you, but beside you into the destiny God had designed. And maybe, just maybe, you weren't meant to choose now, because God wasn't just handing you a relationship. He was unfolding a mission. The next day, you went silent. No messages, no replies, just time alone with God. You returned to that old church, the place where one proposal happened, but also where the divine twist began. You knelt at the altar, no longer asking, which one, but instead whispering, what now, God? And in that stillness, he answered, the one who aligns with your purpose will not rush your heart. He will recognize that you are not just a partner. You are a portal to something sacred. Wait for that. Choose that. A peace came over you like warm oil on cold skin, the kind of peace that only comes when heaven nods in approval. So here you are. Two people are about to propose to you, and yet the proposal that matters most is the one from heaven. You are not being given a choice. You are being given clarity, because you're not just stepping into a love story. You're stepping into a God story. And in the next chapter of your life, you won't just be someone's partner. You'll be God's instrument. Sometimes, the most powerful answers don't come in the noise of life, but in the stillness. When everything pauses, when time itself seems a hush, you begin to hear the voice that truly matters. The world may call it overthinking, but heaven calls it discernment. Because when two hearts kneel before you and both ask for forever, you don't just pick with your emotions, you listen with your spirit. And now, as the final moment approaches, the veil begins to lift. The twist? You were never being tested on love. You were being prepared for legacy. Days passed. You had pulled away from both of them, not to punish, not to play games, but to seek truth. This wasn't about excitement or chemistry anymore. This was about alignment. You weren't looking for someone to just love you. You were looking for someone who would walk with you into the fire if God asked for it. Someone who could cover you in prayer, not just in promises. The first man had been kind, steady, safe. The second had been passionate, deep, raw. But both were flawed, and both carried secrets, truths that hadn't yet been spoken. And God had promised that before you gave your yes, truth would be revealed. And it came one quiet morning through a knock at your door. You opened it, expecting nothing unusual. But standing there was an elderly woman you didn't recognize, her eyes soft but sharp, like she could see into your soul. God sent me, she said simply, handing you an envelope. You need to read this before you make any decisions. You watched her walk away, the silence in her footsteps echoing louder than words. You opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a truth that made your knees buckle. It was a letter from the first man, but not to you. It was something he'd written to someone else months ago, someone he thought he'd marry before he even looked your way. In the letter, he confessed he was still unsure, still caught between his past and his future, still praying God would change his heart, but afraid he'd end up alone if he waited too long. And now you understood. He wasn't proposing out of conviction. He was proposing out of fear. He loved the idea of you, the warmth, the safety, but he hadn't yet healed from what came before. He was still fractured, still halfway in a war he never finished. Then came the second truth, this time through a call. The second man's voice was trembling. There's something I need to confess, he said. I was offered a job overseas, a position I've always dreamed of. I didn't tell you, because if you said yes, I was going to decline it. But if you said no, I was going to leave without a word. You were silent, he sighed. I was willing to throw everything away for you, but not for God. I love you, but I'm not ready to walk that kind of life. Not yet. There was again another revelation. He wanted your heart, but not your path. He wanted love, but not purpose. You sat alone that evening, the sun sinking slowly behind the clouds like a curtain falling on an old play. You felt numb, empty, not because you had lost anything, but because for the first time you saw everything clearly. God had never meant for you to choose between them. They were both parts of your journey. One was sent to test your patience. The other was sent to test your discernment. Neither was the destination. Because the twist was never about who you'd marry. The twist was that God was proposing to you. He had prepared your heart not for romance, but for revival. He was giving you a season of singleness so sacred, so powerful, that it would feel like marriage to his purpose. You weren't being rejected. You were being redirected. You returned to that church again. This time, not to seek answers, but to give one. You stood before the altar, heart open, eyes lifted, tears silent. I say yes, you whispered. Yes to you, God. Yes to the path no one claps for. Yes to the calling no one understands. Yes, even if I walk it alone. In that moment, something inside you shifted. A warmth bloomed in your chest, not from emotion, but from power. Purpose had filled the spaces where confusion once lived. Love, not from people, but from divine knowing, held you like a garment. Weeks later, both men reached out again. The first had found healing and admitted he needed time with God before he could love anyone the right way. The second had taken a job overseas and thanked you for being the mirror he needed to face his fears. There was no bitterness, no chaos, just closure. Because when you say yes to God, everything that was never meant for you naturally fades. And then something unexpected happened. As you poured into your purpose, speaking, serving, creating, you met someone else. Someone who didn't come with grand declarations or dramatic entrances. He came with stillness, with peace, with discernment. He didn't just see you. He recognized you because he had been walking a similar path, waiting, praying, building. He had also said yes to God before saying yes to love. He wasn't proposing to fill a void. He was coming to co-labor. And for the first time, your heart didn't race from panic, but from peace. It didn't feel like a proposal. It felt like prophecy fulfilled. So here's the truth you didn't expect to hear. Sometimes, God allows multiple people to approach your life, not so you can pick the better one, but so you can finally understand what you deserve. Sometimes, the twist isn't about betrayal or heartbreak. It's about awakening. Because when God says two people are about to propose to you, he's not just talking about love stories. He's talking about decisions that reveal destiny. And when he says, you are getting, he finishes it with, you are getting alignment. You are getting clarity. You are getting me. So before you say yes to any man, say yes to God, because the one who comes next will only be able to reach you by walking through heaven's door first.